Hi, everyone. So today I am going to be talking live. I have, let's see, 30 minutes before my dad gets here. We're recording our next episode of just our collaborations that we've been doing. And we're filming that in about 30 minutes. So have a little bit of time. So didn't want to create a video that I have to edit. So I'm just going to go live. So I recently just this morning posted a just a picture of my client who prepped for a wedding, and it just got me thinking about some of the difficulties of prepping for a lifestyle event versus a contest prep, especially when you have been an athlete, you've been bodybuilding. I know a lot of people who follow me on here and on social media and just in general. So I work with a lot of former competitors, a lot of individuals who maybe stepped on stage 5, 10 years ago and who are prepping for something different or to just want to achieve a balanced lifestyle. And I think there's a very common struggle, especially when you have been a competitor or you've gone through an extreme diet, you've gone through a contest prep, and there's this misconception that you have to do the same thing when it comes to a wedding prep. Let's say, you're engaged, you're getting married, and you want to feel great on your wedding day, or you're going on a vacation, you're going to Hawaii. Let's say, I'm just giving examples of some people that I've worked with, and you want to feel confident, but yet at the same time, you have this idea in your mind that it has to be an extreme restrictive diet plan or some sort of just unrealistic, very rigid, very strict plan in order to achieve results. And this is something that I fell into for years, a long time ago. I mean, about 15 years ago. And I felt like, and I was told by several coaches that if it's not very, very, very difficult, you're not going to achieve your goals. And I think that there's this almost this pride with a lot of coaches that, well, if you don't do it my way, if you don't suck it up, if you're not miserable, then you're just not cut out for this. And I was actually told that when I did a contest prep. And even if you've gone through contest preps and done flexible dieting and you've been in a situation where you realize, oh my gosh, like I don't have to cut out whole food groups. I don't have to do sprints 3 times a day and feel like I'm dying. And, my hair is falling out and I'm super unhealthy and all of these things. I mean, even when I won worlds in 2017 and I was shredded to the gill, I never cut out whole food groups. I didn't do anything except LISS cardio, low intensity cardio. I was never miserable, honestly. So it doesn't have to be even contest preps as rigid and as difficult and as extreme as they usually tend to be towards the end of a contest prep. It doesn't have to be this almost like this extreme. I think a lot of times it comes from pride when it comes from coaches because they want to sell you their plan and they think that they know best and you have to follow their specific protocol and cut out, every single food group that isn't a fruit or, well, actually just take that back. A lot of coaches cut out fruit that isn't a vegetable or protein. And you have to eat 5 banana peppers with 3 almonds and 6 ounces of tuna. And if you can't do that and do cardio twice a day and lift 6 days a week, then you're not cut out for it. And that's just not true. And I think a lot of times, not to that same extreme, but a lot of times in just kind of general lifestyle preps, we almost get in our mindset that it has to be this contest prep, especially if you've been a competitor, has to be super rigid. It has to be super extreme. And I just wanted to go over an example of one of my clients. And we actually, also I could talk about my own wedding prep. That could be maybe towards the end of this video if I have time, because I'm going to try to limit this to about 15 minutes. But specifically one of my clients, she came to me and she has prepped with me for different shows. And she actually competed at one point. And the contest prep viewpoint that we had back then was much more rigid, much more strict, much more focused. We had a specific show date in mind. She did great. She stepped on stage. She looked amazing. But this time for her wedding, at one point, she was traveling for 4 weeks in the middle of our prep. She had a lot of events. She had different, the bachelorette party. She had different tastings for your cake. I mean, you have all of these things you want to enjoy when you're prepping for something like your wedding. but yet you think you have to cut out every single social event, you think you have to cut out every single meal out, and that's just not true. And so I think what did I title this? Now I'm forgetting what I even titled this. I think I don't know where I can see the title, but basically, what I wanted to talk about are just how to have a successful lifestyle prep. And first of all, remember it's not a contest prep, and you don't have to be a legalistic, extreme, crazy person in order to achieve results. Now, does it take discipline? Absolutely. If you are a very undisciplined person who has a lot of weight to lose, it's going to be more difficult because just simply you're coming from a very extreme one side of a lifestyle to another. And so there's going to be a lot of changes that you have to implement. But in general, if you are a relatively disciplined individual, you eat relatively healthy, you're used to training, you have built up these habits over the course of your fitness lifetime or career or endeavor, then really it takes tweaking. It takes a little bit more discipline. It takes for sure dedication, but it also needs to have flexibility. And I think a lot of times you have to keep in mind that a contest prep is not the same as a lifestyle prep. And so if you have a wedding, if you have an event, as I mentioned, my client, she had dress fitting, she had travel, she had bachelorette party, she had tastings, different things. She had a whole month where she was traveling. And so we strategically made sure that, that, one second. Have to hide something on comments. Okay, because it was distracting and really annoying. Okay, so with some sort of a lifestyle prep, with some sort of a prep for a wedding, you have to implement strategically implement flexibility. You need enough time. And this is sometimes where I find people get into kind of a pickle because they don't really think about it. And then 3 months, 2 months before their wedding, or a big event or something like that, they're like, oh crap, I really want some extreme results, quick results. Yes, you could achieve quick results. If you really followed a very extreme diet, if you did a ton of cardio, you could do it. Is it going to be best for your health? Is it going to be best for longevity? No. And that is my first recommendation. Make sure you have enough time so you can add in flexibility. And, or maybe that was my second recommendation, because my first was that it does not have to be the same as a contest prep, especially if you're a former competitor and you kind of have that in your mind. And so making sure that you have enough time, that you're approaching your prep or your whatever it may be, your goals methodically. And this is something I see as a problem in the general population as well. A lot of times people want quick, instantaneous results in 30, 60 days. And that in general is not realistic. You need much more time than that to establish a lifestyle and also to achieve sustainable results. Because you have to remember, in a diet, when you're losing fat and you are a weightlifter, if resistance training is a part of your program, the more extreme that you are dieting, the more likely it is that you're going to lose muscle mass. And so being able to maintain that hard-earned muscle mass is so important in any prep. And that's something that across the board I see just so many people missing the mark on, is they think that the faster that they lose weight, the better. That is not the case. Methodical, consistent, and a comprehensive look at your progress is important, because I'll give you an example. Today, I'm in a prep with a client, or just, I wouldn't call it a prep, but a diet with a client, and her weight stagnated this week, but she lost 1/4 of an inch on her waist and 1/4 of an inch on her hips. And so when I look at her weight stagnating a little bit, it just went down by maybe about I think like 0.2 maybe, or 0.3 of a pound average per week. We could look at just the data points of her weight. We could miss the big picture of what's actually happening. And the big picture of what's actually happening is that her weight wasn't necessarily linearly down. However, she made progress this past week, significant progress in measurement changes. And so when we're looking at this is important in contest preps as well, but especially a lifestyle prep, do not lose sight of body composition changes that can't always be reflected on the scale. And this is something that I'm constantly talking to my clients about. And that's why they hire me, though, because a lot of times you can't be objective with yourself. You look at the scale and you see the same weight this week as you did last week, but yet pictures, this is why I require my clients, or I ask them to send me progress photos, front, side, and back, because when we're looking at body composition, it isn't always reflected on the scale. We do not want to be a slave to the scale. We want to look at, okay, what is it that we want to achieve? You want to feel great on your wedding day or some other event. You want to feel confident. You want to lose body fat. Okay, that's so much more than just a scale number. And a scale number is a tool. So, for example, with my client who went through her prep for her wedding, there was a period of time, and she told me this up front, where we prepped for 6 months. And in the middle of there, she was actually traveling for a full month. So, we strategically implemented a time where she was not going to be as rigid with her tracking. She had some untracked days, she had some untracked weeks, but we set out to achieve a certain goal by that time, have more of a maintenance phase during that period of a month where she was traveling. And then when she got back, we were able to dial it back in and still achieve her goals by her wedding day. We had plenty of time. We were able to add in untracked meals, untracked days. And that's something that is so important that I've seen in my work, especially with clients, to make sure that we have a sustainable plan that is not going to result in a pendulum swing up and down post event or post wedding or whatever it may be, because that's also not often talked about. The prep may go okay. You may be able to shed 50 pounds in, whatever, very quickly through some extreme plan. But afterwards, is it sustainable? Are you pendulum swinging up and down in your weight 20, 30 pounds after your wedding because you're tired, you're exhausted, your hormones are jacked up, and your body's trying to normalize. And so of course you're going to be craving things. Of course your ghrelin, your leptin are going to be off the chart, kind of whacked out. Your cortisol levels are going to be up. You're going to be just overall just a crazy person because you achieved this goal, but you went way too fast. And we don't really have a weight loss program problem in our society. We have a weight maintenance lifestyle problem. And the problem with many of these diets, many of these plans that you see, they aren't sustainable. And so, I think back to when I struggled the most in my own life, and when I was up 20 pounds, down 20 pounds, up 20 pounds, down 30 pounds, up 40 pounds. It's because the plan I was following was so extreme that it didn't allow for flexibility. It didn't allow for navigating life, because things happen in life, right? You have a day where, let's say you're measuring your food, your scale breaks, you're traveling, you have a family emergency. Life should not fall apart when normal life things happen, right? Or your program shouldn't just all of a sudden just disappear when normal life things happen. It should be flexible enough that you are able to actually just rally back, as opposed to being on such an extreme plan or something that is so rigid that, I've also, this can be a problem with coaches too. It's this all or nothing mentality. So if you're off by 1%, well, then you failed. And even having that mentality is very destructive, because 70% achievement for a week is much better than 0% or 5% of a plan. And if my client is having a difficult week, I'd much rather them be 60, 70, 80% adherent than zero, and throw in the towel. And, you get a hole in one tire and you just slash all the other ones. So I hope that was encouraging. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to cover. Honestly, I can't really remember specifically what it was that I wanted to talk about. At this point, I got a little bit distracted by a weird comment, so I just deleted that. And I wanted to bring up my own prep. So for my wedding, what I ended up doing was a little bit of a cut for my wedding day. And this was 2 years ago. Our second year anniversary is coming up, and the prep for that was tremendously different than my contest prep. What we actually ended up doing was keeping my calories a little bit more moderate, and then just increasing my LISS cardio. So instead of having specific LISS sessions that were in duration, I actually had a step goal. And so that was much more flexible for me, because I just found, if I'm short on steps, I can literally just step in place at the end of the day and achieve my expenditure goal for that cut, and while I watch TV or something like that. So that's an option too. Some of my clients do steps, some of them do duration cardio. session duration, and it really is dependent on each person, what they desire. And sometimes step goals actually can be quite a bit more flexible. So that is something I wanted to know. But overall, my prep was just quite a bit more just flexible. I mean, goodness, I didn't even really have to. I mean, it wasn't really difficult at all prepping for my wedding. So much different than my contest prep, and even my contest prep. I mean, I think it was the Lord sustaining me, but overall went pretty smooth. So, anyways, I will end this stream, and I hope that this was helpful for some of you guys. And yeah, my dad and I are recording here soon in about 15, 20 minutes, and hopefully we'll have a good episode for you all.